Hi.
Hey guys, we are nope.
It's okay. We can cut a lot of this. It's fine.
Hey guys, my name is Misty Byrd. For those of you who don't know me, and this is Emily Booth Chandler.
She got it right. Look.
Barely.
Yeah. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Booth. I rarely go by Emily. Only my mom and my husband really call me that. So the reason why she calls me Booth is because we're teachers. We have a bad habit of calling each other by our last names.
Yeah,
But
Byrd and Booth.
Yeah, but around these parts, if you yell Byrd, 18 people turn around. So we stick with Misty for her. Um,
The reason we're coming here today, we want to do something that's been on our hearts for a while. We're looking to reach some people who might be looking for stuff, who might be looking for information or
have questions. This conversation kind of started, we spend all day, every day in the classroom together, which grew into actually learning to like each other, becoming friends, and doing Sundays together. We went from co-teaching a class to co-teaching Sunday school, and that kind of became our thing. Being able to tell stories and bounce off of each other. It was weird how it all happened, but it grew into a much needed conversation for discipleship and community, which is something that we're really, really big about. Making sure that everybody has access to. So that's where the heart of this kind of came into play. But right now, we're in a crazy time. We're home. We're not in school. We're not in church. And it's Holy Week. what
it's a rough time.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other word. It's crazy. It's scary. But pressing reset on Easter.
Okay, this is something that Booth has come up with, pressing reset on Easter. It's kind of one of those things when we're at home and we're isolated away from each other. And someone actually had to remind me last Sunday that it was Palm Sunday. In my calendar, I don't know what day of the week it is, much less, month or holiday.
Right. And it was something at the beginning of all of this quarantine, self-isolation, staying at home. I looked at Misty and I was like, Easter's not going to be the same. And it weighed very heavy on me because for years, Easter has been nothing but a little bit of organized chaos. I know for at least my family.
Oh, yeah. Okay, for Easter for us, the Byrd house, it's kind of gotten to be this huge second holiday. You've got Christmas and you've got Easter, and they're kind of one on one. We go so far as to go for matching outfits so we can have family pictures. And I'm telling you, I spent 2 days before all of this hit looking for an outfit or a color for the entire family to have. Just, yeah, she was with me on part of that, and nothing, it was.
Oh, yeah. Easter is one of those holidays where both sides of my family will actually come together. With, my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family, one big event, and that's kind of how it's been for years. But this year we're pressing reset on it, so that means we're not doing that. You can't be in groups larger than 10. So what does
We're
does
not
that
going
look
to
like?
church that day.
Right.
We're not having Easter egg hunts. We're
No.
not having the family dinners that we usually do.
No.
Everything has changed in this moment, in this time.
It's smaller and intimate. The last time I think that a conversation came up where Christ was out there so much in the world, the buzz factor behind it was when the movie The Passion of the Christ released. I was, sorry, Misty, in the 7th grade, I think.
Okay, yes, I am the older one of us, and Passion of the Christ for me was huge. It was just life changing to see the story of his persecution, his death, and all of it just together to really see it brought to life.
Yeah.
Just changed my relationship, I believe, with Christ. It brought me closer to really understand more of what he was going through.
Right. And I was being so young, I was honestly a little scared of it because I'm such a vivid and visual person that the Easter cantatas as a kid would leave me with some nightmares. Don't worry, I recovered fine. We're good. But I still have not seen the Passion of the Christ. I've seen excerpts. Being in youth group during that time, it was a lot of that media being put out there, and it was very impactful. I mean, globally, it made $600 million for that movie. The vividness of it.
And from there, I mean, other videos, other movies have come on to tell the
Right.
story. And so we're getting to a time where we can actually see brought to life all of his
What it was like.
Yes.
It's the most connected version we have of it to this day, probably to understand, and even that probably can't even touch what happened there. But in this quarantine season of Easter, we're not in the brick and mortar church, like we said. Services have been moved to online, and families are really forced to slow down. So your Easter's going to look like you and your family sitting in front of a computer screen, and that's different. When the last time, it's been over 100 years, the last time that the world was without, I guess, an active church or active in the church.
Active building.
Yeah, the
More
building
active.
house, the community of it.
Mhm.
And that for me, I think has been the how do we do this? How do we do this? And then I'm reminded, but the people that were with Jesus, that walked with Jesus every day, they did it without
Mhm.
coming together in the church house. They did it for years
I
without.
think what is coming to is we've gotten so used to our holidays or our
Right.
Wednesday, our Sundays, every time is more of a schedule thing than it is to live day in and day out with Christ.
It became a more maybe religious rather over a relational thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself getting caught up in those routines and wanting the very religious part of it, and I miss key things about the relationship, and for so long missed key things about the relationship with Christ.
So now let's reset. That's what we're doing. We are
Right.
putting the reset back on Easter. So telling us what it's all about. You think about it, we do a great job of celebrating an empty tomb and the big part where it is, everything leading up to it and the cross and his death and his resurrection. John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life."
I mean, I think just about the world can quote John 3:16 to some extent.
And it might be overplayed and people think, oh, that's the one that everyone goes to. But that is so impactful.
Yeah.
It tells the entire story of the good news right there.
Right. But I understand that. And I understood that as a student and in college. And it was up until the past few years that I understood the religion. I didn't understand the relationship. And I think that's what's really challenging me this week is to take a look at what happened on Monday, what happened on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday was a big day, up into Friday, the day of the event, the day of the crucifixion. We have Good Friday off. Being teachers, sometimes if the weather cooperates, we get that Monday too to relax and celebrate and enjoy, but
it's become another holiday.
Exactly.
And not so much what it's really about. And that's what we're talking about now is we want to reset. That means going back to the basics, knowing exactly what happened and why it has all come about for us and what it means for us now.
Yeah. And I think with the week that we've been given to do this is probably,
it's perfect.
Yeah. What's the saying? No coincidences.
Oh, yeah.
If there are no coincidences, that's God. It's kind of like that. I've seen a lot on social media that's like this week for Mississippi is pretty big, pretty. Our numbers may hit the peak this week, and how hard this week is supposed to be. And somebody posted a meme jokingly, begging the question. This week was an important week for Jesus too. So just as important as it is this week to, keep our distance and follow the letter of what's going on, it's important to follow this week through Scripture too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something, like Misty said, we do a good job of at Christmas. We tell you everything about Christmas, the season of Advent, and when
The whole story of Mary and Joseph and
right.
everything.
And there's some things that were just really weighing on our hearts about the setup of Holy Week that we kind of wanted to come in and talk about. And I think it's important to put it out there that during this season we're not mourning what we don't have. We're not sad or disdainful about not being together with our family.
Oh, I can't wait to get back together with my family.
Right.
And get back in Sunday and Wednesday and everything.
We miss our routines, but
absolutely.
I think my grandmother and a lot of people would take the sharing of the good news of Jesus Christ over a sink full of dirty dishes for the sake of family being together.
So that's what this is about.
Yeah,
we're taking it, and now we're wanting to say, like, last week was Palm Sunday, and I had another teacher actually remind me of that because I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
Which then is like, okay, Palm Sunday, where people laid down palm branches.
And he was coming into Jerusalem. He was, he was fulfilling prophecy.
Right, and then it goes on to him going to tell about the parables he was teaching, and it leads up to one of the biggest times that I can really think about is the Lord's Supper.
Yeah.
That Thursday night
was huge. I mean, Jesus took all the disciples, he brought them in all together, knowing what was going on, fully aware of what's happening, feeding them, explaining to them what's going on, but not only that, serving them by washing their feet.
Right. Even though he knew what was going on, what was going to happen the next few days coming forward, he took that moment in the upper room to actually sit down and serve them, humble himself to be a servant and wash their dirty, nasty feet.
And something that just was completely lost on me as a student, I never understood feet washing. I saw it as a thing that was done at a wedding, and my thought was, unity. There's got to have that unity moment at every wedding. And I missed that it was the act of service. He was showing the disciples, like, hey, I'm about to do something really big. But even though, I'm the Son of God, I'm showing you what it's like to get out there and get dirty and get on your hands and knees and do the things for others that matter, that are important.
Like with me, I didn't grow up in a church necessarily. We went sporadically, but I didn't really catch this whole feet washing thing until a few years ago when we were in a youth camp and they're talking about doing this feet thing, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be horrible. I don't like people's feet. They're nasty. Their toenails aren't done and all that stuff. But I mean, I was asked to do it, and so you humble yourself and you do it, and it was a beautiful moment. It really was. And to think that Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, would actually bend down on his hands and knees and wash feet. It's just, oh, Lord of mercy. Okay. Going on past that.
Mind-boggling. I mean, it, up until maybe 2 years ago, it clicked, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what they mean by relationship. Like, that's what it means to, it was really, what really challenged me the most to seek this out and understand that is, when you get married, they say, love your spouse like Christ loved the church. And I'm like, how do I do that?
Okay, wait a minute.
Am I
You're
going
forgetting to submit. The women have to submit, and the husband love is...
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't understand what that meant. And that is a whole other conversation. But rereading this and seeing that people do it at their wedding, I was like, oh, that's what that means. That's what that's supposed to look like. And having conversations about it at various camps where I'm being told that I was going to have to wash feet, I was very uncomfortable. Because I was uncomfortable in my own relationship with Christ. So
it hits home. It does.
Rereading this during this week and seeing that, I think honestly maybe for it, it's changed a lot in my own heart.
To know that someone truly loved you enough to put your wants ahead of theirs.
Exactly.
And to do what they need to for you. And that's what Jesus was showing. I'm willing to put myself out there for you even more. I mean, he's laying it there for them, washing their feet and talking to them and getting them ready because he knew that he was going to the cross the next day.
But when he did it, I mean, he did it for the ones that wanted to follow him, but he also did it for the ones he knew would leave him and betray him, and the ones that wouldn't choose him. And I think as I grow older, the most sobering concept is even when I didn't choose him, he chose me. And that goes back to a whole long line of
our divorce kid syndrome and
yeah,
everything else.
You know, upbringings and things like that. Mm-hmm. Even when I didn't choose him, he chose me. And that in comparison, it's just, it's crazy.
But how did he choose you? What did he do to choose you? And that gets us back into this whole thing. He's sacrificed himself to go to the cross so that we can have this relationship. The fact that he chose us enough to give his life for us.
Right.
And so now, you know, we're facing these times when there's so much uncertainty,
anxiety, stress. I can't
fear.
tell you.
Mm-hmm.
My entire family is made up of medical professionals. I mean, down to in-laws, onward, forward, cousins. You know, it's scary.
Yeah, but that coming back, he was scared. Even Jesus was scared. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he was sweating blood. I mean, he was fearful, but he still gave it up to God.
Right.
And that's what we're really coming back to is this entire week, talking about everything from the supper to the garden to, you know, the persecution and then to the cross. And it's just, there was so much fear and uncertainty under those times. And the people who walked beside Jesus day in and day out, he was gone from them. And the fear and the anxiety of that time, what are they going to do now?
Right.
And that's what we're facing. And we want you to realize that this story, the Holy Week, is something that we can go back and compare it to and be like,
to get us through this season that we're in. Because
exactly.
At this point in time, we don't really know
what's going on
when this is over with.
Mm-hmm.
And neither did the disciples. They didn't know when all of this was going to come back and be the joyous occasion. Yeah. They just knew that what they had been taught for 3 years was now being acted upon, being put into play. And I mean,
so now it's our turn.
Right.
So we press reset. We look back. We take the time to look back, and we remember all that was going on. We're pressing reset on our Easter.
Right.
We're going back to remember, because God, Jesus, gave us those instructions on Thursday night
mm-hmm.
to wash feet, to break bread with others, to serve everybody,
to tell stories. I mean, this story is the ultimate symbol of hope and good news. And I mean, who couldn't use that reminder during this season?
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning heavy on this to get me through personally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just
we got to put our trust in God, and that's what Jesus put his trust in God. The disciples put their trust in God.
Right.
And that's what we are going on, and we're putting our trust in God to get us through this.
Right.
Because he's never going to leave us,
never
forsake us. And if going on, a big Romans 8:31 through 32, that's always hit me, is that if God is for us, then who can be against us?
Right.
I mean, if he gave his son for us,
mm-hmm.
then why are we even worried about anything else?
Right.
And so we've got to just keep that trucking on and to put our trust in our Savior and take the moment to reset.
Keep praying, keep having conversations, keep talking with each other, keep in touch. We are the most socially connected generation ever. So while we're, tucked away in our own homes,
Isolation.
in isolation, it can get lonely, but there are ways to connect. The church is still active. The doors may not be open this Easter, but God is moving. The church is simply just a place, a meeting ground. The church is
the real church is the people. And that's why we're encouraging you now, as you yourself press reset on Easter. Do what God has called us to do.
Be the
Serve
light.
others. Be light.
Because I'm not going to lie, it's a dark and scary time. But if you shine your light towards somebody, eventually it makes its way back around to you when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
That's anything that I've learned. That
our encouragement to you, to all those garbage workers, postal workers, medical professionals,
gas station workers,
first responders,
bankers,
even to the moms in the homes still, everyone your next door neighbors, the people down the street, everyone who's keeping our world running as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep on praying for them. Reach out. Be the light as we're all struggling to make it through this.
Yeah. Just love everybody.
Share the story.
Share the story and take a second to we don't have distractions right now. We don't have busy schedules, jam-packed events, family things to deal with. Take the time and dig in and bring everybody in that you can.
Right. It's not just a story. It was actual history. It's life.
It's truth.
It's truth.
That's all we've got for you today. Just wanted to drop in and
say we love you. We're thinking about you. We're praying about you.
Miss you.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for
things to get back to normal.
Right. That's for sure.
Yeah. So go on. Be the light to this dark world. We're going to need it.
Yep. See ya.